This is Dave Toronto. The name of this podcast is called Cut Through the Noise. The intention of the podcast is to provide common sense perspectives and conversations about things like people, business, communication, and a little bit of life. I'll be doing most of them on my own and occasionally bringing on guests like clients and people in my network. So I look forward to doing it. Hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please subscribe and be sure to share with your friends.
We're going to talk about how we handle pressure today. And how we handle pressure is going to dictate our effectiveness with anything. There's nobody out there that hasn't felt pressure or stress at some time in their life. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that feel it every single day, and there's other people that feel it maybe a little bit less. But how we deal with it is going to determine how effective and successful we are at anything. So we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the things that might cause us to feel pressure or stress, how we may react to it, and some more effective ways to respond to it going forward. So there are a number of things that can cause us to feel it inside and outside of work. But when you're leading and managing other people, you better get this in check, because that entire team is watching you. That entire team is using you as a blueprint and using you as their example for how to effectively react or respond when they feel pressure or stress. Anything we do is what we make it okay for them to do. So when we feel stress, generally it happens it could be a number of reasons. I've written down a few just to kind of guide me into the conversation, but it's usually when we feel blindsided by something, or we overcommit to something, or we're too agreeable when we really want to say one thing, but we've agreed to something else. And again, it leads to that overcommitment. If we've overestimated how good we are at something and then the results turn out to be something else, that can cause us stress. People quitting on us, people being angry at us, clients, going somewhere else. All of these things, an argument at home, anything like that can cause an average person to start to feel pressure or stress, worrying about losing your job, worrying about if the boss is mad at you, worrying about getting, fired, whatever. All this stuff can lead to us feeling pressure, stress, whatever you want to call it. How we deal with it is all that matters. It's funny because there are some people out there, they never seem to be stressed about anything. We're going to be talking about reasons that is. But you look at, professional athletes are the easiest examples to look at, where you see some people, the last thing they want is the ball in a critical situation, if you're saying playing basketball. But Larry Bird always wanted the ball. Michael Jordan always wanted the ball. You see quarterbacks in the NFL panic in crunch time. But Tom Brady always wants that ball at crunch time. So there's reasons why that is, and Larry Bird and Tom Brady, to look at them, not the most impressive figures out there, not the most athletic, not the tallest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but for some reason, in the most critical situations, they're at ease and they're comfortable. Why is that? Well, we'll talk about it. But before we get into that, let's talk about ways that, or more challenging reactions to stress and things that can really, really get us in trouble. And when we react to stress, if we're in a situation where we're reacting to it, we're not in control of ourselves, and we're telling everybody else we're not in control. But there's two ways in which we really need to look at ourselves if we're reacting in these two ways. One is, if we react volatilely, that's a problem. If we have an emotional, volatile reaction to stress or pressure, that's one problem. And then the opposite to that is when we bury our heads in the sand and act like nothing's wrong. That's a problem. Think about the work that I do today with all of my clients, whether it's the people I coach one-to-one or the teams that I coach. One of the more common issues that I deal with anybody is this: how they act when, or how they behave when pressure hits them. Do they react with emotion and volatility, or do they hide from it? And I think back to when I was a kid growing up, that was my life. Life at home was either completely consumed with tension and volatility, or hiding and pretending nothing was wrong. It was one or the other. We never talked about anything, so nothing ever got resolved. And when that happens, there's two major things that are gonna set in. One is resentment. When things don't get resolved because we don't know how to deal with stress or pressure, resentment sets in. From everyone else around us starts to resent the chaos. And if we bury our head in the sand, resentment sets in there as well, because everyone else is saying, what are we hiding from? Why are we pretending this isn't a problem? And then if resentment sits too long, apathy sets in and people start not caring. So these are the things we've got to deal with. These are the things that can happen in a home, and these are things that are going to happen at an office. It's the same stuff. What we don't want to do is emotionally react, and we don't want to hide. We got to somehow find balance in the middle so that we don't lose our teams. So let's talk about what happens. So if you've got a tendency to react and to get upset and to yell at people and to make rash decisions and to fire people or punish people or write people up or whatever it is, you make a panic decision to slash your pricing so a client won't leave, or you make a panic decision to do whatever, you're not in control. And you're showing everybody else that here's what it's showing everybody else, that you're not ready for it, that you're not prepared, that you're you live in pure reaction to whatever you're feeling. And it's probably because you weren't ready for it. You weren't prepared for it. You didn't see it coming. Or you made an emotional decision to please, or you overcommitted. And that's what causes this to happen. It's not a good example to set. The other poor example is to pretend it's not there. And when you pretend it's not there and you bury your head in the sand, you basically tell everybody else that you're either blind or you're a coward. Not acceptable. We don't want to show our people that we're hiding from the problems. We don't want to show our people that we're unaware or unwilling to address things because they make us uncomfortable, because all we're doing is telling them that it's okay for them to do that as well. What ends up happening inside of an organization, if we react in a volatile way, the two likeliest reactions from our people, if we become volatile and angry and stressed out and yell and scream and whatever, pick your poison, the team is going to respond in one of two ways. They're either going to resist and get angry back, they're going to fight back, they're going to argue back, they're going to challenge us back, which is going to create tension, or they're just going to fall in line and they're going to do what they're told. They're going to weather out the storm. They're going to adapt and just tell us what we want to hear and hope that our irrational response or mood or whatever goes away soon so we can get back to a peaceful situation. No matter which way they respond, though, ultimately, if this becomes a pattern, they will start to resent the situation and they'll start not to care. And that's where managers lose their people, is when they push them to the point where they don't care, or they push them to the point where they let resentment sit too long, which is going to lead to that. They lose them. And it's very tough to get them back. It's tough to reinvent yourself when your team stops caring. If the team loses faith in us because we don't know how to handle pressure and we're ineffective at managing those circumstances, we may never get them back. They might still work there, but mentally they quit. And it's a bad situation, and it's really hard to fix that. So what we don't want to do, what we want to do is just be aware of what our tendencies are under pressure, so that we can recognize those reactions when they happen. So what do we do about it? What if I am the type of person? What if you are the type of person who reacts emotionally or irrationally to pressure? What if you're the type of person who hides under pressure? If you know that's your tendency and you can acknowledge that that's your tendency, now you can do something about it. The key to it and what you want to do so that those things don't happen, it all comes back to And the reason we act this way is because we're not prepared. And I mentioned that earlier. I mentioned some of the athletes. In the most critical points in a ball game, those that want the ball, the only difference between those that want the ball in their hands and those that don't, those that want it are prepared. They've done it so many times. They've practiced so relentlessly. They've put in so many more hours that they're no longer concerned about the situation. They have total confidence and conviction in their preparation. And that's the difference between an athlete who's prepared and reacts calm under pressure and one that doesn't. So what are some of the things that we need to be prepared for? Well, as a manager, there's so many different things that we need to be prepared for. But at its simplest form, we should always be prepared for maybe losing a person on our team. We could have people quit. We could have to, somebody might leave because they get relocated or their family's moving or whatever, and all of a sudden our team is short-staffed. We should be always preparing for that to happen by recruiting in an ongoing way. I've talked about this in the past in other podcasts. If we are heavily reliant, for example, on a client or two, and we're making lots of money off of this one relationship or these two relationships, well, a smart leader is not going to sit back and get comfortable. They know that by losing one of these, it could jeopardize an entire book of business, an entire company. It could really impact their ability to pay people and retain their staffs. So what do they prepare for? They prepare for that. They prepare to find new clients. They prepare to add to their stable of clients. So in the event that one goes away, they're okay with that. They can withstand the loss of a client. They can withstand the loss of an employee because they're ready for it. They know that it's likely. If having a difficult conversation with somebody makes us uncomfortable and causes us stress or pressure, well, we can prepare on how to have them. We should know that it's okay. You know what? We're going to have difficult conversations with our people from time to time. It could be at home. It could be at work. Just know these things happen. It's normal. I'm not going to pretend like they're not going to happen, because if you pretend like they're not going to happen, when something uncomfortable comes up, you're going to feel pressure and stress, and you'll either react or avoid. So what can we do in advance to prepare for it? Those are just a couple of examples. Pressure and stress are a direct response to lack of preparation, overcommitment, a delusional perception of how good we are, being surprised by something. That's where it comes from, because we're not ready for it. We didn't see it coming. And then boom, this is our raw reaction to it. So what we want to do going forward is take a hard look at your day-to-day. What are some of the things? Take notes. If something causes you stress, write it down. Spend a week or two, write these things down. What are the most common things that cause you to feel the stress? What are they? Write them down. And then what is your reaction? Do you lean toward emotional, irrational, illogical responses? Is that your reaction? Or are you the type of person that's going to bury your head in the sand? Is that your reaction? In either case, you need to be aware that that's what's happening. Once you're aware that's what's happening, that's when you can do something about it. And that's when you must do something about it. Not doing something about it will ruin your company. It will destroy your credibility with your team. They'll stop listening to you and they'll stop caring. And that's the worst place to be. So build a culture, build yourself to be somebody who's prepared, show your team how to prepare, so that when these things happen, when things go down the path of stress or pressure, or you're in crunch time, or you have to move quickly on something, you can do so with a regulated heartbeat, breathing easy, and cool and calm in those situations. That's what you want to be. So give that a shot. Let me know what your results are. I got to say, I've received a number of emails and texts over the last couple of weeks from people in my network that have listened to some of these podcasts and applied some of the feedback, specifically the one that I released last week on just helping people solve their own problems. That to me is awesome. I love the fact that you're getting some value out of it. I love to hear the feedback and the success stories. So keep them coming, and we'll catch up next week. Thanks.